Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
Have you ever wished you could know what the future held before you got there? What if you were given the gift of knowledge before you even began your journey? Now, I've been thinking about that because I made a lot of stupid mistakes when I was younger. And I wish I had someone to say, don't go down that road, go down this one. I'm Sherry, and welcome to From the Eyes of Wisdom, where we are pairing an experienced elder from Christa Senior Living with a passionate King's High School student ready to launch into the world. And while these conversations won't tell the future exactly, they did reveal a lot we weren't expecting about how to live life well. Are you ready? I can't wait for you to hear this. All right, John, Peter, Clark. John's okay though, right?
John is fine.
John is fine. And then Savannah is here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so John, you coached and taught school for how long? How many years?
36 years.
36 years. Wow. And Savannah, you want to be a teacher.
Yes.
And a coach.
Yes.
What do you want to coach?
I was thinking about cheer, if I play cheer in college.
Okay, so cheerleading, you'd like to be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so John, we thought we'd get some of your wisdom about teaching and coaching and life overall, and that would help Savannah in, her life journey as maybe pursuing this. That good?
That sounds great to me.
All right, let's start with your childhood. Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
When I was 7 years and 3/4, my dad left. And my mom raised me and 5 younger brothers and sisters.
Wow.
And so I was raised on welfare.
Okay.
Had to go out and work and we didn't have money to buy clothes, so if I wanted clothes, we didn't have secondhand shops then, so I didn't have the advantage of getting cheap clothes. So
I think I heard them say that it was sports that kind of got you through high school. Is that right?
It was absolutely sports that got me through high school.
Any specific sport?
Well, football and track and basketball were the 3 sports that I participated in.
Okay.
And it was because of a coach in high school, my track coach, when I was a freshman, that got me thinking about being a teacher. Mm-hmm. It was just one statement that he made that really touched my heart. And he wasn't a Christian, but
okay.
he was an admirable older man.
Okay.
And I had been coming back from a youth group, and he went by and saw me one night about 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And we had a team meeting with all the team, which included the juniors and the big guys I looked up to.
Yeah, yeah.
And he looked over at me and he said, Clark, he says, you got to start taking care of those $1 million legs. I was running the mile, and they weren't $1 million legs, but
okay.
just the fact that he said that,
yeah,
I thought, man, mm-hmm. I would like to be a coach.
I love that. And I love for you to hear that, Savannah, because it's like the littlest act of kindness can just change a person's life, right? Mm-hmm. So is there any specific reason why you wanted to do coaching for cheer or just coaching overall? Is there something that was like, that interests me?
For me, when I joined Kings, joining basketball was the way I made friends.
Okay.
So just as an opportunity to make a community for other people and set other people up for friendships maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
And just make a community together.
Okay.
I think that would be the main reason, like uplifting the community.
So let's talk about you get out of high school, you work a little bit first?
Yeah, I was going to school. I was working nights to pay for going to school in the daytime.
Okay.
And I was going to sleep in my classes and things because I was awake all the time. And the GI Bill was going out, the Korean GI Bill was going out the 31st of January.
Okay. Now there's kids who have no idea what GI is, Bill is, Korea. They don't know any of it. So just explain a little bit what that was.
That's where the government gives you a certain amount of money to go to school. And
you would serve in the armed forces for a little bit.
Serve in the armed forces. So I joined the Air Force.
Okay.
And I was in the Air Force for the better part of 4 years. I got out a little early to go to college.
Where were you stationed?
I was stationed in Panama.
Okay. You had met a girl when you were home before you went to Panama.
That's right.
Okay.
That's
and then what was her name?
Her name was Jeanette.
Jeanette. Okay, so you met Jeanette, and then you go to Panama.
And she was a junior in high school when I met her.
Okay.
And she wanted to have a pen pal that was in the armed services.
Okay.
And so I was her guinea pig.
Okay.
Just wanted to be pen pals. I mean, it wasn't anything romantic at all.
Okay.
So I wrote back to her, and then she wrote back to me.
Uh-huh. And you're answering these with your own
I
letter.
answer them because, hey, I'm down there all by myself.
Yeah.
And here's this beautiful girl, even though she was 2 years and 2 months younger than me.
Uh-huh.
She was, and we carried on. I mean, we started feeling more and more emotion got into it.
Through letters.
Through letters. Probably about 7 or 8 months into it, I get a letter and she says, John, I hope you don't think I'm being forward, but I think I'm falling in love with you.
Oh.
And I wrote back, well, that's just fine because I know I'm falling in love with you. And that was kind of the start of, then it did become romantic.
My gosh. You feel like Jeanette, God led you to her.
I believe that very sincerely.
Yeah.
We got married 3 days after she graduated from high school.
Wow.
That was the next leave I came home.
Okay. Wow.
So we were together a total of 11 days before we got married. I mean, together physically.
Yeah.
I would never recommend that
Okay.
way. I mean, that's, unless God leads it.
Yeah. But still, I just love that there's something in the writing of something, of knowing someone's heart.
You're right.
Yes.
You can share your heart through letters.
Yeah.
Maybe better than you do in words.
I think so. And I when I was listening to your story, I was like, yeah, I bet that sounds right to me. So before I go on with your story, I just want you to tell, if there's what should Savannah look for in a guy? Can you give me 2 things?
First and foremost, does he love the Lord? Because if you're unequally yoked with somebody that doesn't love the Lord, it's just probably a very heavily weighted that it will either not turn out well or
Or it's going to be difficult.
It'll be very difficult.
It's going to be difficult, yeah.
But I would say somebody who's kind too, not just kind to you, but kind to others and treats other people well. Because if he treats other people well, he'll probably treat you pretty well.
Oh, I love that. John, that's good stuff. Now, speaking of the Lord, can you tell me a little bit about your spiritual journey? Like, how did you come to know the Lord? Was that during your teen years? You mentioned youth group. Or
9th grade.
9th grade.
Some guys had been after me for a long time to go to a youth group. And finally, one night, I told them I'd be there, and we were up fishing about 1.5 miles, 2 miles up in the mountains, up this mountain.
Yeah.
And I had 20 minutes to get there, and all of a sudden I realized, and so I ran all the way down, went down there with my old fishy clothes and stinky clothes on, and the kids at the church were just and they were playing volleyball.
Okay.
And this one, it seems like there's a girl always involved. There was a girl.
There was a pretty girl at youth group.
Yeah, she was.
Okay.
And somehow she picked the ball up and she just was very silly and just went around and threw it. And it hit me right in the stomach. It sounded pretty bad, but it didn't hurt at all.
But you acted it out, didn't you, John?
You know me. You know me. I was not a Christian at that time.
Okay.
But there was a guy that was 2 grades ahead of me that was an athlete. And he took an interest in me, and through the example of the other kids and the words of him, the Lord speaking through him, I became a Christian and became very involved. I was a vice president of our Baptist youth group in Oregon.
Wow.
And it was, so I grew probably primarily through going to youth group and through Dick Jordahl
Yeah. The kid
spending time with me.
See, that's what I love. Is if you think about this, specifically Savannah at your age, totally different culture now than it was then, right? So it could feel a little more difficult to share your faith. But thinking about, here's a kid who was 2 grades above you,
Yeah.
shares his faith. Look at this wonderful man sitting here now because of that, just that seed of sharing his faith, showing you how he loved the Lord, what it can do. You know what I mean? When we talk about ministering to people or talking to people and all that, I think we always think about stage, we think about microphone. No, this is a kid in a youth group who's comfortable sharing his faith. And look, right?
Well, let me just speak to you, Savannah.
Okay.
You have a platform right now that kids look up to you. They do. And you will never know what some little thing you may say to some underclassmen or maybe one of those freshman girls on the cheer team, of how you treat her and things, of how much that will affect her. And it's going to be that way all through life, that just as long as you're faithful in just sharing little things, you don't have to make big prophetic statements to touch a person's life.
Yeah. Oh, God, remember that, please. That is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Years from now, you'll find that one of those freshman girls that was there was touched by your kindness.
All right, so you're in the armed forces, and now you decide, okay, I want to go to college, right? Because GI Bill, right?
You know, while I was in the college, though, while I was in the Air Force, I did have the opportunity to lead 3 different guys to the Lord.
Really?
I did.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Well, it was usually at a time when their life was at a crisis, and they were willing to listen. But my big regret, and this is a big regret, is that I led them to the Lord, and then I let them live. I didn't disciple them, and aside from just a word now and then, and they kind of dried up, just like a flaming log that comes outside the fire tends to go out after a while. And
the Bible says some people plant, some people water, right? But God gives the increase. So I may say something to you, and, I'm not the watering person. So I go, and maybe that seed looks like it's not going to grow, but then God sends somebody else, and they're the watering person, right? And then all of a sudden it grows because he's the one that's giving the increase. So, just the seed itself, just them knowing that Jesus loves them, that he can change their life. Then someone else coming to talk about it, they already have the foundation, right?
That's true.
That you laid.
Good.
Yeah. So you're in college. Where did you go to college?
I went to college, Eastern Oregon University.
Okay. Go for teaching and coaching, but your heart was really to coach, right?
Oh, yeah. My goal was to be a coach.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time you had to be a teacher to be a coach until I got in college.
And you're like, wait a minute, I got to teach
this. Now, see, you're ahead of me already. You know you're going to have to teach to be a coach.
Well, she wants to do. You want to teach math?
Yes, I want to do math.
So what did you teach? What subject did you end up teaching?
I taught, my main subject was PE. That was the subject that I have a passion for.
Okay.
But I taught health and...
Okay. And you were coaching football.
Football and basketball and track my first year here. And then we had a coach come in that could teach basketball. So I was just the athletic director then and coached football and track.
Okay, so you're coaching and you want to coach. And I think this goes for coaching and teaching. I'm interested in how you keep kids motivated. Like, is there a teacher right now, or you don't have to say their name if you don't want to, a teacher or a coach that, they keep me motivated when I can feel a little distracted or feel like I don't want to give my 100% here. They kind of keep me motivated. And how do they do that?
I think Miss Morris.
Okay.
Like we were talking about Miss Morris
Shout
earlier.
out to Miss Morris. Okay.
She just has such a high expectation, and like letting her down, I think, would be letting myself down, and like seeing her disappointed would make me ashamed in myself.
Okay.
And like I know I could do better.
Yeah.
And just like her expectations, so I like make the expectation for myself higher.
Because the expectation she said, which means she sees something in you. When she sets that high expectation, she expects something from you. Yeah. Okay, I love that. So how did you motivate kids and make them feel like, so I mean, sometimes kids just don't want to run. Sometimes they don't want to block. Sometimes they don't want to learn.
You know, they didn't have a choice if they're on the team.
Okay.
But usually kids that are involved, like the cheerleaders, they want to be cheerleaders.
That's
and
why
they
they're
want
there.
to excel. And your coach has high expectations. You said that. And so you want to make her proud, and it gives you a good feeling when you do well. Well, it's the same way in coaching. You know, we just talked about giving your best and things like that. And when they didn't, I let them know. And
so the one thing that I love about coaching, my mother was a single mother, and my brother, what he found, and you may have had boys like this too, in the coaches was almost like a father figure.
Yep.
Did you have some of that where young men are like there was something that to have this man expect these things from you and not have it at home? Did you find some of that there?
Oh,
I'm sure he did.
You do, yeah. And you feel a special affinity to them because I've been through that. But you know, an interesting thing, I really wanted to be a coach, is what I started out. And after about 4 years, my teaching became as important as my coaching.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because I'm dealing with kids.
Yeah.
And you've got 30 kids in this class. I mean, every one of those kids is important.
Yeah. How did you share your faith with kids, or did you? Were you able to we're in a different time now, obviously, but were you able to share your faith with kids, or was it just kind of the way you carried yourself?
No, I share my faith. I didn't.
Did you?
You couldn't share your faith in the public school like you could in. Today, you couldn't share it at all.
I know.
You can deal with kids individually. All right, you could then, I'm assuming.
But I hear you saying it's important. You'll find a way. You'll find a way to share your faith.
Well, yeah, and if you just let the Lord lead it, sometimes you'll say things inadvertently just that will share your faith. Just as tell a kid, I'm praying for you. And I've got a few, my grandson, I always tell him I'm praying for him.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't know the Lord right now, he knows he's got a grandfather that's praying for him.
I'm assuming day to day, there were times when it was like, this is difficult. Can you think of a time where it was like, because I like to give hope, but I don't like to paint a picture that's so rosy that makes it seem like there's no stumbling blocks or no bumpy roads. Was there a time where you're like, this is really hard? Not that you wanted to quit, but it's like, man, this is hard.
You are wise, because there are times, and it's not just an everyday easy thing. Yet I wouldn't have another career. I mean, that to me, dealing with kids, you're having an opportunity to shape lives. I've had kids, one girl that I had in grade school, I met with her maybe 10 years afterwards, and she told me what an influence I was in her life. And then she gave me a letter that she had written to me then that didn't send it to me, that told me how much I meant in her life and things. And her mother and father eventually split. And, you know, you never know what's going through a kid's life.
Yeah.
And some kid like you that seems like they really have it all put together, you may find out later on that they're going through some real tough things with their family or things. And so you just treat every kid with love and care, and whether they're the best athlete. One of the boys that probably had most influence was a little guy that didn't have any hips, and he was about this tall. And when we'd run races, I'd give him about a 25 or a 30-yard head start. And he took it, and the kids didn't mind. And when he had beat them, they felt, well, he beat them. I mean, you just little things you do is going to make a big difference in lives.
I love that.
Big difference.
Would you change anything, John, about your life?
I wouldn't change a thing. You have an opportunity to change lives. You're not going to change every kid's life. Mm-hmm. I kind of had this feeling that I could change every kid that's there. I mean, that's the attitude I had, but I know that you don't. It was the kids that were having problems. I used to, every time they'd have a kid that was having a problem, I'd say, well, I'll take him at lunchtime or things. And some of them you touch and some of them don't change. That's just the way it goes.
Well, I think it goes back to what you were talking about, the guys you were in the service with. I really think as a teacher, a lot of it is what I would call seed planting. So you don't reap in, the same season that you sow, right? Like you put the seeds in the ground and that plant is not going to shoot up for you, right? Mm-hmm. But you put them there. And then at some point they do, and then they come back to you and say, hey, can we have dinner or breakfast so I can tell you what a change you made in my life? Now, here's what I'm going to do, Savannah. I'm going to give you this card. And I'm going to give you a pen. Those of you listening can't see, I just handed her an index card and a pen. John, one word of advice for her that she should take with her when she gets to whatever school she decides to go to, whenever she, starts dating a guy that's giving her letters like you did, Jeanette, whatever. What's one piece of advice she needs to have throughout her life that you feel like is something she can always go back to?
Some relationship advice.
Or just overall. It doesn't have to be relationship. Just overall life advice. Just one piece of advice that she needs.
Just find somebody that you can be friends with that treats you nice and treats others nice. And they'll treat you nice, but they may not treat others nice. And that will eventually trickle down to you, I think.
I think. So you're saying, is he kind to everyone?
Is he kind to others? That's right.
Is he kind to others?
That's just the first thing. The most important thing is, do we share the same faith?
That's right.
Pray for God to lead you to the right person.
And just in life, right? God, lead me in life. Because it sounds like every step of the way for you, God was leading you.
He was, even though at times I wasn't praying for that. But my experience now would be that I would definitely say, if you pray for God to lead you to the right person, He will. Mm-hmm.
I need to ask you about, is it the John Clark Award?
I was just explaining to
we need to talk about that.
The John Clark Award came about when I left Krista.
Okay.
And when I left King's.
You left the high school there, right?
High school. And I left because we couldn't afford to stay with $300 a month.
Right.
And the kids decided that they wanted to have a John Clark Award since they hadn't had a chance to dedicate an annual to me.
Yeah. I love that.
And so I thought it was just for 1 year, but it's something that's carried on since 1966.
So someone can still win the John Clark Award?
Well, yeah, it's for more than just athletics now. It's somebody that's involved in more than one sport and somebody that...
You know about the John Clark Award?
Mm-hmm. I've heard about it.
Look at John Clark right there. That's John Clark.
Well,
isn't that awesome?
You're a
Did you realize that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I got to wrap up. Okay. Hey, guys, thank you so much. And everyone listening, thank you for tuning into this. This is such a special podcast of just wisdom and hopefully joy that you can hear someone's life and see how God was there every step of the way. And we can pour that into another life so that they can see the faithfulness of God as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you on the next podcast.